And we are here with Eli Rallo. Welcome to Seeing Other People.
Hi. Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you. There is so much that I can't wait to talk to you about. How are you doing? How is the fall unfolding for you? I feel like your life is so amazingly crazy right now.
It's so busy, but I have to say, I am like a cold weather person. Like, I do not like the summer. I don't know what it is. I grew up on the beach. Like, I should like the summer, but like the fall weather coming in, it like almost gives me my like Devil Wears Prada, like autumn in New York grind mentality that I'm just like loving. I don't know how you feel about weather, but like this weather is my favorite.
I love that for you. And I feel like I always say, I love the fall. It's my favorite time of year. I love fall clothes and stuff, but I'm already like, the second it goes below 50, I'm like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
not,
No,
this is not it.
No, I was talking to someone yesterday and I was like, there's good winter and bad winter, and good winter is like November and December, and then bad
Yeah.
winter is everything after the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't
Like,
agree more.
right?
Yeah. I want to talk. That is one thing I want to talk about. Kind of like how a lot of people do face seasonal depression. And I know you've done an episode on your podcast, Miss Congeniality, about dealing with loneliness. And
Mhm.
I think that's something that a lot of people face, especially during this time of year, especially going into the holidays, as if they're still single or if they're going through a breakup.
Yes.
Not where I plan to start, but let's jump right in there.
Yeah.
I know loneliness is something that like I've experienced. You've talked about it, how like you've faced it at different points in your life. And well, backing up for a second, I'm very excited to talk to you about your rules. And a little disclaimer for you, for anyone who's new to seeing other people, I'm very anti rules. Like, I do not
You're a
believe in
rule
dating
breaker.
rules.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
You're a rule
I,
breaker.
yeah, I'm a rule breaker. I think that rules are, they don't there can't be one set of rules for everyone.
Yes,
Like what works for you isn't going to work for me, isn't going to work for my best friend, whoever.
totally.
But I think that your rules are the exception to that rule that I have, because your rules are, it's not like these are like the rules that everybody has to follow. You're like, these are my rules that work for me. And there are so many different rules for so many different situations. And I think that it's such an amazing thing for other people to see and be like, oh, wow, like I can make my own rules for myself.
Yes. I think it's exactly what you said. And I was actually just doing an interview with Mashable, and they were asking me, like, you see some like anti content about, like, well, there's no rules for anything. And I agree with that. And the rules aren't even so much rules. I just noticed during the pandemic, like, people felt so depressed and lost and stuck. And for me, I created these things for me because I desperately needed to find joy. And finding joy for me wasn't like, I need to be a millionaire and win the lottery, which would have been great. Or like, I need to have the man of my dreams land in my lap. It was more just like, I want to enjoy Tuesday. Like, I had a 9 to 5 when I first started doing this. I want to enjoy my fucking Tuesday. Like, I want to kind of honor what it looks like to do laundry and not dread it. Like, I don't want to sit around on Sunday being like, I can't imagine going to work tomorrow. I cannot imagine Monday coming around. Like, I just want to like my life a little more. And so for me, like, they it's almost like a to-do list for me. And I'm like a big list person because like my ADHD brain, like, I need to be organized like that. And so for me, it was like, okay, I just want a list of things that I know are going to make something better for me, like going to make me not dread a date or like not dread doing laundry or whatever it is. And so I feel like I agree with you so much. I have such a problem with authority. Like, I'm not good with like authority figures, and like I'm not really good with like sets of rules. So I think it's like ironic, but they are different, like exactly what you said.
It's more like you said, like you can't control like whether or not you win the lottery, but these are things that are in your control. You can control like how you wake up and approach the day. You can
Totally.
control if you're going to like make something a miserable situation and sit there and wallow about it, or like turn things around, make the most of it, like go for a walk and clear your head instead of sitting on the couch and crying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's like what I love. And like, I feel like I've never, there are so many different people who are like, you have to follow these rules. Like, I don't agree with like 99% of like quote unquote rules. But when
Yeah.
I first learned about your rules, I was like, yes, like this is something I can get behind. Like, these are rules that I support.
Thank you.
So, what would you say, like, rules for somebody who, is feeling lonely or is afraid that they're really going to face like seasonal depression?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I wanna try to see if I've made rules for seasonal depression. I know I haven't posted it, but I'm always working on them. But for me, like, I started okay, let me see. I started, sort of looking at my life less so as, like, the love I perceived to lack and the things I perceived to lack. And this is in terms of, like, loneliness in general, but I also think seasonally, like, for me, once it gets really gray outside, like, those feelings just heighten. Instead of focusing on, like, the love I perceive myself to lack, whether that be romantic love or familial love in some situations or, like, whatever that is for me as a person, I start focusing on the love I do have in my life. So maybe that's self-love. Maybe that's like I have really great friends. And I was reading an essay by someone and I failed to remember what it was called, but she was saying that it was like her 30th birthday and she always pictured herself like married, maybe with like a kid on the way, but she was single and she was having her 30th birthday party and she was looking around at the room of people and she was like, some of my friends are married and some of my friends are in serious relationships, but those people are estranged from their parents or they don't have siblings to have a sibling relationship with. So she herself, instead of wallowing in what she perceived herself to lack, she started to say, my parents, like, I have the pinnacle of a healthy, loving, familial relationship with my parents. Like, most people aren't lucky enough to say they have that, or like the abundance of friends I have around me. Sure, maybe I don't have a romantic partner right now, but I have all of this other goodness and all this other love. So I think that's definitely one of them for me. And then I think just like being really cognizant and aware of the feelings that you tend to face at certain times. So instead of being like, well, I'm going to be depressed again this year, it's inevitable. I do a lot of mitigation tactics. So I am in therapy as a mitigation tactic. Like in general, I feel pretty good about where I am mentally, but I still go because it's mitigative for me to prevent the burnout, to prevent the breakdown. I know that I get a little bit seasonally depressed. So I'm going to like up my vitamin D intake, or I'm going to buy myself a membership to a Pilates class that like it's like a month unlimited. So like I have to go because I bought a month unlimited. I have to get out and like move my body in that way. Or just like any little things like getting yourself one of those sun lamps, or like I love something that always brings me like immense joy is either going on Pinterest or going on Street Easy and like planning really elaborate trips, or like pretending like I'm gonna buy a $10 million apartment, which I'm not going to do.
I
And I
do that too.
you know
We
what
have
I mean?
big dreams over here. Yeah.
It makes you feel better. So I think it's just like being mitigative instead of being reactive. And like a lot of times you're still going to have to be reactive as well, but like mitigating it before it happens just to take some of the edge off of yourself. Like think about future you and like do future you a favor, I think is really what it is for me.
I love that. And I think it's so smart to, figure out what those things are that make you happy, that bring you joy, that you need. And maybe it's even like writing a list in your phone or journaling about it if you're
Yeah.
somebody who journals, and like almost preparing yourself so that when you are in those moments, you have that to look back on. You're like, okay, here's this like menu of all these things that bring me joy. And I can
Yeah.
literally go pick like a la carte, like what I feel up to doing today.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think it's so smart. And like, I can tell, obviously, you're somebody who has done a lot of self reflection. And it's so obvious to see that, like, how much you've grown and how self aware you are. And I think it's something that, for people who haven't started that journey, started that process, it can feel really intimidating. But
Yeah.
just knowing that it's it's for the good of yourself. Like think about how much like time and energy we put into, staring at our phone, waiting for a guy to text us back, or like swiping on
Yeah.
dating apps or scrolling TikTok. Like you may as well take time to, prioritize yourself.
Yeah, and you're so right, and I feel like we can also all tell that you've done a great deal of self-reflection in that regard, but what you just said about the, like, joy list is something that's, like, so big for me, like, knowing the things that bring you unbelievable amounts of joy. For me, it's randomly, like, I'm obsessed with Beyoncé's Super Bowl halftime performance, and back when I was, like, interviewing or whenever I had, like, an intimidating call, I would watch it before because it brings me, like, a level of, like, inner joy that like my whole body reacts to it. Like knowing, and that is like free. Like, it is free to watch that. Like, that is God's gift. Like, people just need to have those little things where they're like, okay, I know that like this muffin from this bakery on my street, like,
Yeah.
brings me joy. When I'm feeling shitty, I'm getting a muffin. Or like after therapy in a hard session, I'm going to get that cookie. Like, it's those little things. And I feel like you just like hit the nail on the head with that like joy list idea.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, when I'm either like having a really shitty day or I don't feel great or I just know I need a little pick me up, like there's a pressed juice 2 blocks away. And this is the most
Yeah.
like basic bitch thing about me, but I am fucking obsessed with their citrus 2 juice. It just
Oh,
brings me so much joy.
and it's probably like really healthy. Like,
It is. And then I feel even like better when for drinking it. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a good thing.
like it
Not
has those
only
vitamins.
yeah, it's great. And it probably has like more long-term like healthy effects for me.
Totally.
So
Totally.
yeah, it's all about finding little things. And I think that goes for, if you're whether it's like facing seasonal depression or loneliness, or you're going through like you're having a really stressful day at work, like whatever it is, I think having that joy list can just help so much.
100%.
So I want to talk about getting ghosted. You did a video that I absolutely loved about your rules for being ghosted. And I always like complain about how like it's 2022, almost 2023. And I'm like, there's still content being made all the time about getting ghosted. I'm still talking about getting ghosted on almost every podcast episode because
Yeah.
people are still ghosting. And
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous. It's so
So
frustrating,
ridiculous.
but it happens.
Yes.
So I want to talk about, your rules for getting ghosted, reacting to getting ghosted, and how we can really, process it and not let it get the most of us.
Yes. It's a great question. I think, my first thing that I tell people all the time is that when you're getting ghosted, it actually has nothing to do with you. That person would have ghosted whoever they were seeing. So, not to say that you're not special, because you are, but it is not a reflection of you. It's a projection of them onto you when they ghost you. They are too cowardly, too disrespectful, too impolite to send the message after 3 days, I'm just not interested. So I always like, it's really hard to get out of that self-pitying mindset. Like, it's just me. Like, I wasn't cute enough. Like, first of all, like the right person is just, they're not going to even think like you're not cute enough for them. Like, you're just going to
Right.
be cute to them. They're just going to like you. So that's just a ridiculous mindset. But it's, of course, one that I resonate with because it's so familiar to all of us. So I think, I always say, like, if you're getting ghosted by like your partner of a year, these rules don't apply. That's very different. Like, that's insane. And at that point, that would be a time that I would like literally confront the person and probably show up at their apartment and be like, are you dead? Like, what the fuck? Like, we've been dating for a year. But I
Yeah.
think if you get ghosted, maybe like, I would say if it's been less than a month. And I would also say, if you get ghosted by somebody that you're seriously going on dates with and like talking about the future with, that's another reason to confront someone. But if this is like a casual hookup, a situationship, a few dates, like less than 5 dates, then I would say about a week after you haven't heard from them anymore, I would accept the fact that you're probably getting ghosted. I would also accept the fact that if you weren't, do you really want to be with somebody who's going to ignore you for 7 days, to not reach out to you? And I am the type of person that can't always answer text messages, and I don't answer all my texts usually, but I do think that almost everybody, unless you're going through some tragic thing or you're struggling with your mental health, can send a message, hey, I have a super busy week thinking of you. That takes 5 seconds. So I wouldn't make excuses for this person a week after. Then I would like sort of selectively unadd them from things. Like if you had them on Snapchat or Instagram, like you don't need that energy in your life. And listen, don't start saying like, oh, well, what if they reach out? Like they have your phone number. Like they can
Yeah.
use it. Like it drives me crazy when it's like, well, what if they were going to Snapchat me? Do you really, really, truly at the age of 25 want him to Snapchat you or them to Snapchat you? Like they have your phone number. And if they cared that much, they would reach out. Then I would
Absolutely.
always give myself like an hour to wallow and be upset about it and feel the hard feelings because it sucks. It stings. But I always say like you would rather the sting than like the literal burn that would come from like being strung along. Then you're going to drink your iced latte, go get a pastry, watch like your favorite episode of TV, like take care of yourself, and then kind of go for the revenge. Like I don't know, it's kind of fun. Like you get ghosted, you're like, screw that person. Like Abby Lee Miller said a lot of shitty things, but she also said everybody's replaceable. And I am 100% on that. Like you're hooking up with a guy and he's going to ghost you. Like, okay, bye. I'm going to hook up with your brother. Like not actually, but like,
I mean, you never know.
you're replaceable. And to me, it's just like, put on a really good an outfit that you feel great in, like split a bottle of red wine with your friends, like have a fun photo shoot. And if the person starts randomly reaching out to you late night, don't answer right now. Like just go have your moment, go have fun. Like I always say the best revenge is success in silence, meaning just not saying anything to the person and just going off and thriving and living your life, and then they're going to wonder where their spot is in your life, and they're going to realize they can't take you for granted or push you around like that. um so those are kind of my rules for getting ghosted. I think it's definitely a shitty feeling, but I always say like you would rather have that sting of like, damn, that stings, I really liked that person, than like the wound that would be created if the person led you on for 6 months and then was like, I literally don't like you at all. You would feel horrible. And I also think they're freeing you up for somebody else, somebody that's gonna prioritize your needs and be really a good person for you.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think a few things that you said really resonated with me. Like the first being, it's not a reflection of you. It is absolutely 1000% a
Totally.
reflection of them.
Yeah.
And I know that like feels so hard, but it's like, oh, like I keep getting ghosted. It's like it keeps happening. It's like, well, then, it's still not a reflection of you, but maybe it's a reflection of the people that you're choosing to go out with and give your time
Yeah.
and energy to.
Yes. I also saw something recently that got me thinking, that was like, if you're continuously going after people who are emotionally unavailable, you might want to look interior and wonder if you're also a little bit emotionally unavailable. And that
Yep.
would be why you're looking at people that are in the same spot as you. And there is no problem with being emotionally unavailable. I have been emotionally unavailable so many times, and I've also failed to accept or recognize like my emotional unavailability. So sometimes we're going after people that are ghosting us, but it's still not our fault that they're ghosting us. Like we're just going after the people that we feel drawn to, and maybe that's time to do some inner work and reflection about how you might be feeling, because like you're first, you come first.
Yeah, and I had a guest on recently who shared that you might think that like you might actually be emotionally available, but you might be giving off the energy and the vibe that you're emotionally unavailable, and they're matching that. So think
Yeah.
about how you're texting. If you're playing these games, if you're waiting 4 hours to respond, if you're not, telling them that you're interested or showing them that you're interested, if you're not asking them on a date, if you're not like giving anything to them, like they're going to take that as a sign that you're probably not that interested. Like some
Absolutely.
if you're sometimes if you're playing hard to get, you actually become hard to get because you're not even letting yourself be attainable.
Totally, I agree.
Yeah. So I think it's like definitely if this is something that keeps happening to you, like, you know, take that time to reflect and be like, okay, is it something that I'm doing? It's still
Yeah.
about them that they're ghosting me. They can't, take 10 seconds to copy and paste the text that is in their notes or that somebody else wrote for them. But also say like, well, if this keeps happening, is it something that I'm giving off that
Mhm.
is not what I'm trying to give off?
Totally.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love your point about, 5 to 7 days after, like accepting that it happened. And
Yeah.
this is something like I feel like I've heard you say a lot of times in a lot of different, situations where it's like sometimes you have to accept that things are the way they are, whether it's accepting that a situation isn't working out, whether it's accepting that you're, for example, like lonely or that you're single or that you're getting ghosted. Like you can start you're not going to start to like move forward until you accept whatever it is that's happening.
Also, it's like, don't make excuses for anybody who wouldn't make any excuses for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I spent so much time, like, it's literally confirmation bias is what it is. I really liked a guy and we were seeing each other, but it was clearly like situationship, like exclusive hookup vibes in college. And I remember like mining for the details that would confirm the story that I had told myself, which was that we were going to date and that we really liked each other. And you know what? Maybe we did like each other, but for so many reasons it wasn't going to happen. But at like in the middle of the night when he would tell me something really sweet, or when he would like ask me to do something during the day, or when he would text me like kind of bare minimum stuff, I would use those as the details to confirm the story. And the story was
Yeah.
that we were going to be together. And that story wasn't true. I was making excuses for someone who would never have made excuses for me. And I think it's like you really have to like, it's hard to break your own heart, but I think it's like the bravest thing that we can do.
I think also once you start making excuses for somebody, that in itself should be the sign that like this is not working, or this is not
Yeah.
the situation that you want to be in. Like, I will be the first to admit, I have made so many excuses for somebody else's actions or behavior in the past in, dating situations. And there was no excuse. It's like they weren't
Yeah.
treating me right. And I wanted to be with them so badly that I was like, oh no, it's fine. Like, that's not what they mean. Or like, well, you don't know what it's like when it's just the two of us together. So it's like, I was making those excuses when I absolutely should not have been. I should have been saying, like, actually, this isn't okay. And like, I'm
Yeah.
not cool with this.
And, like, it's not even you're so right because it's not even, like, don't make excuses for someone who wouldn't make them for you. Don't make excuses for someone when the other person doesn't have to make them for you because you're not doing anything because 'cause you're
Yeah.
being available and communicative and responsible and respectful and all the things. If they're not doing that for you, like, they're not matching your energy. You deserve better.
Yeah. And it is such like a hard thing to grasp, like what
So
we're
true.
actually deserving of. It's hard to realize that. I feel like when we've accepted less and we've been okay with less, and especially like when you want something so badly, like to be in a relationship, it's like sometimes we do accept the bare minimum
Mhm.
because of how focused we are on like achieving that goal. But I think it's important to differentiate, like, it shouldn't be a goal to like be in a relationship. It should be a goal to like be happy. And if somebody
Yeah.
comes into your life that can make you feel happy, great. If
Yeah.
they're not making you feel happy, then what's the point of them being there to check off that box on your to-do list of get a boyfriend?
Yeah. You literally hit the nail on the head.
I want to talk about your relationship for a bit. So you've been
Mhm.
dating your partner for like over a year, right?
Almost 2, yeah.
Almost two. Amazing. There's one thing that you posted about it. It was a video, and you wrote, "When I use my manifestation technique to manifest a soulmate, and I met my boyfriend 6 weeks later, and he's an exact carbon copy of what I wrote down when I was manifesting."
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this because I don't know why this is my belief, but like I don't, whether it's I don't believe in manifestation or maybe I like have never really taken the time to understand it. I'm just
Okay.
curious, like what was this process like? Like how did this actually work? Like what were the things that you wrote down and how did you meet?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think okay, so I feel like I'm always surrounded by like manifestation naysayers or people who are like that's fake or like that's not worth it. And I am totally of the camp that it can be a little bit like, huh, like are we is that what we're doing? But for me, I was just in a really depressed and lonely state like probably around 2 years ago now. And I was with my best friend and I just noticed that she kind of like grabbed her life by the balls for lack of a better phrase and just like did things and put things in place to make her happy and she like spoke her happiness into the universe and it came back to her. So like the law of attraction basically states that if you're putting positivity out into the world, then all you can get back in is positivity like a boomerang. In the same way, if you're putting negativity out into the world, you can only get negativity back. So, a good example is people that say, I fucking hate Valentine's Day. And I'm not talking about the people who are like, it's a capitalist holiday that we don't need, like a Hallmark holiday. I'm talking about the people who are like, I don't have a boyfriend or a partner, so I hate Valentine's Day. I used to be like that. Like, I don't have a partner, so I hate Valentine's Day. Like, screw all the people that get to go on Valentine's dates and that are getting flowers. Like, it's not fair. Woe is me. If I'm giving that energy out, the only energy I can get back in is negative energy, is like negativity from the world. I'm not going to get the partner that I crave or even the happiness that I was craving at that time. But if I said to myself, and it's a lot of like, subconscious or conscious thoughts rather become subconscious actions. So if I said to myself, like, I'm really happy for people that get to celebrate romantic love today. I'm going to celebrate self love and friend love today. And I just can't wait for the day that I get the flower delivery and I get to feel special. If I say that, then I'm putting positivity out into the world. And even if I don't feel it at first, eventually those conscious thoughts are going to become subconscious actions. So I kind of started manifesting in that way, where I was just putting good energy into the world, even when it felt kind of difficult. And then the other thing I started doing was instead of being like, let's just say I wanted to open a Pilates studio. I don't, but let's just say that was my goal. Oh, I just wish I could have my dreams come true. They're never going to come true. I just want to open this Pilates studio. Like, I'm working so hard. What if I just said, like, future me 5 years down the line has a franchised Pilates studio in New York City? It's the best Pilates studio. Everybody loves it. Current me is working toward that goal. It's just a mindset switch. So for the romantic manifestation, all you really have to do, and this is a bit more of like a ritual thing that I like saw on TikTok and YouTube and kind of like made my own. But in addition to all of that sort of like good vibey stuff, you just write down kind of exactly what you're looking for from a partner, and you have to really open your heart and mind to the fact that they're coming your way. So really similarly to how if you wanted to open the Pilates studio, you would have to open your heart and mind to the fact that future you 10 years down the line has that success and current you is working toward it. You have to like get that into your body, that belief system. And you just believe that that person is going to come your way and you're going to manifest them and meet them. You write it down, put it on a piece of paper, and just forget about it. And that's really it. And then you just live your life and exist your life. Like I just told you that your soulmate is coming in a year. Like, how would you live? Like, you would have fun. You would focus on yourself. You would be intentionally selfish, all of those kinds of things. So we actually met from like a friend of a friend of a friend. Like, I'd matched with someone on Hinge who I never met in person, and we like followed each other on socials but didn't really hit it off romantically. And like a year later he like randomly asked to set me up with his friend, and that was like in my time of manifestation. And it had been a few months of me really like just being more positive and giving positive energy out into the world. So I feel like when you think about manifestation like that, it's a bit less like I'm just going to write down that I want to win the lottery and then it's going to happen. And it's a bit more like I'm just reframing my mindset and my psychology so that you know, I trust the universe a little bit. And for me, it's like, I don't know what I would have. I know a lot of people like look to religion or their faith for those kinds of like, okay, I have something to fall back on. I have a reason for like everything. For me, it's just like the universe. I really feel like the universe has our best interests. I do feel like there are no coincidences. Like I live in that sort of mindset. I'm not really like a religious person, but I'm very like spiritual. And so I think for me, it was just those mindset switches. It was less so of like the way you hear about manifestation as it pertains to like crystals and moon water. And I do all of that stuff. But like a lot of people are like, I'm not there. And that's fine. It's very like historical, beautiful practice, very cultural. And I've learned a lot about it from the internet. But yeah, I would say that's my manifestation like thought process.
I think that was a really great explanation for somebody like me who like hasn't fully like grasped it or understood
Yeah.
it. And I think like my main takeaway is, I mean, it doesn't have to be like so woo woo, like you're saying, like it
Yeah.
can just be these like mindset shifts. And I think to your example of like Valentine's Day, like I think even, turning it on its like turning that negativity on its side and flipping the narrative and saying like, I am going to celebrate this and I can't wait for like when I finally can. It's like
Yeah.
just having that different outlook. Guess what? That's going to make Valentine's Day not suck.
It's
It's
gonna make
going to
it
make it,
fun.
yeah, exactly. Like you're going to be able to enjoy it. And I totally agree. Like the more positivity that you put out, like the more that comes back to you. And I also think that like the more open you are to the possibility of things, like with the Pilates example, these were like great examples. Wow. Like you should literally be a teacher. I'm not even kidding. Like with the Pilates example, it's like, right, like, oh, like I want this dream. It's never going to happen for me. Well, then you're not going to make any strides. You're not going to take any steps or do the things
Yeah.
that you're going to need to do in order to get there. But in like the reverse of that is saying like, okay, this is where I want to be in 5 years. Like, I believe that I can do it. It's going to happen. It's going to be great. Well, guess what? Then you're going to start working towards it.
Totally. And think even about you with your podcast and like your career journey. Like you were maybe unintentionally manifesting because you made that podcast when you were at your old job and you thought, this is like my happy spot. This is my place. This feels so right for me. Future me is going to have a really successful podcast of my own. And now look at you now. So maybe you weren't even being intentional about manifesting, but you did manifest like your success in this industry.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that is like a really great call out. Like I literally like found this thing that I love to do. And then, things changed at the company and I was like fighting to keep doing it. And I'm like trying to get the next season approved. And they're like, okay, like jump through these 27 hoops. And then I ended up losing my job. And I was like, well, okay, wait, I found this thing I love to do. I really want to do it. I don't need to now go like put roadblocks in place by going to like another company. Why
Yeah.
don't I just go and do it? And I
Just
was
go.
like open to letting it happen.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
you did
I love
it.
that. Okay. So I did it. Like I literally did it without
You
even
manifested
knowing.
without even knowing.
I love it. Wow. Okay, cool. What's next for me?
Yeah,
And now I like,
seriously.
I feel like I want to try this, like actually like writing stuff down and seeing.
It is. I will say I stand by it wholeheartedly. Like I was also unintentionally doing it. Like when I was 20 years old, I made a list of like 25 things I want to accomplish before I was 25. I'll share some of them. I'm going to pull it up. Where is it? 25 goals. It was like 25. Okay, so one of them was to not have a desk job. Like I always wanted to be creative and like have a creative life, and that was something that was really important to me. Like I was like I'll start there if I have to, but I'm not going to end at a desk job. I want to have a fulfilling creative job that's not at a desk. And then the second one was that I wanted to get a specific advance on a book deal with a big five publisher. Then the third one was to be in love, and it didn't have to be with a person, but just anything. And then the fourth one was to travel more. So like all of those things, like I just wrote them down in my phone notes, and I was just like, I'm living in pursuit of these goals. And even when I feel like I'm like, whoa, like where am I going? Like I feel so out of control. Like I am living in pursuit of these goals. And writing things down is just like, it's the easiest thing that you can do, but it's like, it can really like make things happen, or at least I think it can.
I love that so much. And I feel like our notes apps are like a gold mine, and like
Yes.
the eyes into our soul. Like I don't know what that
No.
phrase is, but like holy shit.
I would rather give someone my texts to read
Yeah,
than my notes app. Like my notes app is
1000%.
a dark fucking place, like full of spooky shit that like no one needs to see.
No, I literally get so scared. Sometimes, I mean, I take lists. I write down lists of literally everything. Like my boyfriend and I have a list of every single date we've ever gone on, every single show we've ever watched, like dinner we've gone to. I have lists in my phone from like studying for pop quizzes when I was a
Yeah.
freshman in college. But like if I scroll at any given time, if I'm just like scrolling, stop, I can definitely find like a long, like 10 paragraph text that I sent to a boy that is like
Oh,
the most
yeah.
embarrassing thing on the planet.
No, absolutely. Like it is so scary in there.
Terrifying. But I love all of that so much. And I really am excited to now, like, I want to try it and I'll report back and we'll see how
Yes,
it
you
goes.
have
We'll see
to.
how it goes. Okay. I have a bunch of listener questions that people sent in. Some are about dating, some about New York City, friends, all that.
Love it.
Let's do it.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
The first one is 4 months too soon to move in together if we're both ready.
I don't think so at all, but I think you have to, I always say this on Instagram, but dating advice is super nuanced, right? Like
Yeah.
if you meet somebody who like does not have the same priorities as you and like you just don't like your living situation, you're going to move in with them, maybe I would caution. But if you meet someone and you're like, let's say that you're almost ready to get to settle down and that's what you want. And like, I look at my parents, like they met when my mom was 21 and my dad was 30, but and they didn't move in together right away. But she said on the first date that she knew she was spending the rest of her life with him. And like, she wasn't wrong. So if you feel that way and the other person feels that way too, and it's not like, something super hasty, but something you sit down and really talk about and think about, I see literally zero problem with it. I also think in this new like time of dating, like especially with COVID, like things were sped up and I see that I've spent a lot more time with my boyfriend than in the last 2 years than I've ever spent with someone in a relationship because we are in an adult space where we're not like doing homework at night. And COVID, like we didn't have much to do or places to go. Like it was just comfortable to be together all the time. So I see zero problem with that. Like I think you have to ask the right questions to yourself and ask yourself why you're doing it. But I think like at the end of the day, like there's no rules about when to move in with someone.
Yeah, I agree with like asking yourself questions about it. When I first saw this question, I was like, I don't know, like 4 months is
Yeah.
very early. Like you guys might really not know each other. You might be caught up in like this like crush and the honeymoon phase and all that stuff. But at the same time, like there are so many couples that we saw during COVID move in together very early. And guess what? It either works out or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work out, then probably wasn't going to work out anyway. You just have to like make sure that no
100.
matter what, like you're very open, you're communicative, like you have to remember that you're still learning about this person and that never ends. Even if you move in together, like Jake and I just moved in together a year and a half into our relationship. We're still learning things about each other.
Exactly.
It's not like you ever stop learning, but
Yeah,
especially because it is newer, I think just really being so open about, your
absolutely.
expectations and what this
Communicating.
means and what's comfortable for you. I
Yeah.
think that's the way to do it.
And just keeping that line of communication open and, like, keeping your options open. Like, for me, if I was objectively in a 4-month-long relationship and leases were going up and I was ready to move in with that other person, I'm lucky that my parents live 40 minutes away. So if things tanked, I could get out of that situation. Like, do you have, and I'm not saying like prepare an exit strategy, but like ask yourself all the questions and talk to your partner. Be like, listen, like I literally hate when my roommates don't take out the trash. It drives me nuts. I cannot be the only one doing it. I need to know that you're going to be able to do things like that. Like, have a conversation with them as a friend, as a roommate, and as a romantic partner.
Absolutely. I think separating those things and recognizing that this person is going to be all of these things for you is a really good way to, figure out what do you need and what can you give in all of these
100%.
relationships. Yeah.
100%.
Next question. I recently moved to New York City. What are some tips on making new friends?
Oh my God, I love this one. So
I knew you would.
I love this one. So for me, like I am a very introverted person. So everyone thinks I'm extroverted because I'm talkative, but I'm like, no, I have ADD. Like I just spew, but I'm not like the girl that walks into the classroom and sits next to somebody else and turns and says, hi, I'm Eli. But I had this earth shattering realization at the end of my college career / into grad school where I was like, nobody ever thought it was weird to turn to the person next to them in a Pilates class, in a cooking class, wherever you are, at a bookstore, and just be like, hey, I'm Eli, what's your name? Like, that is objectively not strange. I don't know why we think it is. So that's like my number one tip, like just being friendly, talking to people, going to the same workout class at the same time where you're going to see the same people. But then also, these days, content creators, the communities that we've been able to build, and like not to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to, my Facebook group and my Geneva chats, which are linked in my bio, like I meet girls all of the time who are literally like, I met my roommate in your Facebook group and we are best friends. Or like, I literally met the girl who's going to be the maid of honor at my wedding in your Facebook group. Like, I never knew I could have a friend like this. Or like, this is a group of gals that all got together from your Geneva chat. Like, if you have the same interest of a person that creates content, you're likely going to have a similar interest to their audience, because my audience is like idiosyncratic and so is yours. We have different audiences, but people that choose to be a part of our audience might have similar interests to one another because they have the watering hole that is like my content and the style of content I'm creating. And I've just met so many people like on the street and randomly that were like, I did this with them. I did that with them. I met these girls that showed me pictures of them with their friend group that they met in the Facebook group in Paris. They were
Oh my
like at
God.
the Louvre. They like went to Paris together. Like, the fact that I'm able to build community in that way is really special to me. But the fact that people take advantage of it is what matters. I do not. And I think a lot of people are hesitant about the whole Bumble BFF thing. So I'm like, think about, everybody has these groups. Jenna Palick has one. Carly Weinstein has one. Like, so many people are creating these Geneva groups and these Facebook groups where you can truly and honestly make lifelong friends. And like, the girls are always making a plan. Like they really always are. I'm like a silent watcher of the groups just to make sure everything's like in control. And like, they're always making plans. They're always doing something.
It's the best. Well, two things. One, I think it's so funny and so true what you said about like, why is it weird to just turn and say, hi, I'm
Yeah,
Alana to somebody? It's like, it's a similar like concept I see with dating where it's like people think that because dating apps exist that like you can't meet somebody any other way. Like bars didn't go away. They didn't disappear. They're still there.
yeah, they're
And it's
still there.
like why not? Like we all want to like meet people who are like us. And if you're doing something that's a shared interest with somebody else, there's a good chance that you're going to have other common
You're right.
interests. Like, and
Yeah.
with the online stuff, like, I mean, I love, like, I'm in so many of these groups, and there's one group, I live on the Upper East Side, there's an Upper East Side Girls Facebook group, and
Love it.
I'm so proud of the number of people who will write, like, hey, I just moved here, like, this is a little awkward, but I don't know anyone, or like, I just got out of a relationship, and I'm going through a bad breakup, and I kind of just want somebody to, like, go on walks with, and, like, first of all, it's admirable. I'm like, wow, like this person is awesome for putting themselves out there in that way. And second of all, there will be 50 comments of people wanting to meet up with them because we all feel the same fucking way.
Yeah, we all feel the same way. Nobody has ever thought it was weird for you to just reach out. What's the worst thing that happens? Like if you post in a Facebook group is like, I don't even think nobody would reply, honestly. The worst
Agreed.
case is that you go out and be social and maybe you don't hit it off with that person, but maybe that person has a cool route. Like you never know. Like
You
you
never know.
never know. Just put yourself out there.
No, it's like you like matching on that dating app with somebody, and then a year later, like, hey, I have a friend.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, life is crazy. You have to just take all the little connections and little connectors, like, as you go.
Exactly. All right, next question. I lost it with an ex and said some horrible things after finding out he has a new girlfriend. What are some tips to accept that this happened?
For me, it's like think in the heat of the moment, things are always said. I think like I recently had an example of this. Like I said things I really didn't mean in the heat of a certain moment. And I think that's a human experience. And I try to remind myself that the past is written in ink. Like, I have no control over what already happened. I have control over my reaction to what happened. And my reaction to what happened when I said the things I didn't mean was firstly to apologize. And like, maybe you don't owe your ex that, but I just said to the person, like, I'm really sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I've did a little digging and this is why I said what I said. I hope you can understand that I take it fully back and I hope you accept my apology and understand what I was going through at the time caused me to say that to you. I think an apology is a great thing to do, even if you don't really want to reach out to your ex. But if you feel like you were in the wrong and you were in the wrong, I would just send a message being like, hey, that wasn't cool of me. I wish you the best. And then for going forward, I would just get them out of your line of sight. Like, set your boundaries and protect your peace. Block and mute them. Like, don't torture yourself by watching content of them. Don't think up all the ways that that person might have changed for their new partner. It's not healthy. It isn't serving you. Like, what is the goal of that? I always ask myself, what is the goal of something? It's nothing, right? So that's a really big one for me where I just would really protect your peace. And then I would just say, like, remember that this is all about your reaction going forward. You're not going to do that again. How are we going to make sure we don't do that again? For me, it's about, thinking about the ways I confront people in a better way. Or, when I know that I'm like PMSing and have a UTI and I'm not feeling well and I'm hungry because I didn't eat all day, not having that hard conversation with someone because I know how I react in situations when I'm not feeling my best is I just say shit that I didn't mean. Not having that hard conversation when I'm not in a good mindset, and sometimes we can't avoid it, but that's kind of my advice. I think just like apology, protect your peace, and remember this is all about your reaction to what happened. And like you cannot change what happened. So it's really not about what happened anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that. And I think in terms of like apologizing and protecting your peace, at that point, this is clearly something that's on your mind. It's something that's like upsetting you. You're feeling anxious about it. Like, do it for yourself. Like maybe you'll just feel a little weight lifted off your shoulders if you do send
Yeah.
that text explaining it. I know like there was one time where like I went through a breakup with somebody and like I was in a really bad place and I maybe like a month after like drunkenly at like 3 a.m. texted him this whole paragraph about it. And I
Yeah.
was so mortified, so embarrassed. He obviously didn't respond. I never said anything. And
Yeah.
maybe like 3 months later, we ended up like meeting up and like got a drink and talked. And he brought up like that text that I sent. And I was like, oh my God, like I was so drunk. I literally did not remember sending that. When I saw it, I like wanted to die. And he was like, wait, like, why didn't you just tell me that you were drunk? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know like what to say. Like I've thought about that
Yeah.
text for so long and I'm like, oh, I thought it was obvious that I was drunk because it was 3 a.m. like my time. And he
Yeah.
was like, oh no, like I didn't think that at all. I was like really like worried and I didn't know like what to do, but I ended up not doing anything. And like even
Yeah.
just having that conversation made me feel so much
So much
better about
better.
it.
Yes.
And
Like
like
a weight lifted off your shoulders.
exactly. And we all say things sometimes, whether we mean it or not, whether we're drunk or sober, like it's okay to say things, but don't let the fact that you did it, like you said, like you can't undo it. It's in the past. You did it. You have
Yeah.
to accept it. You have to do whatever you need to move forward.
100%. And I think your
Yeah.
example is a really good one too.
Yeah. So, all right. One or two more. Okay. Guy wants to be
Mhm.
official after 4 dates, but I'm not ready. How can I lighten things up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just listened to a podcast that was about confrontation. It was a Girls Gotta Eat podcast, and they had an expert on there. And I've been talking about this a lot. And he was talking about confrontation as a sandwich. So you have to go in with something gentle. So I would say, like, I love spending time with you and I'm loving getting to know you and I want to keep doing it. Don't start it out with like, hey, I'm not ready, because then the person's going to start spiraling like, oh my God, do they like me? Like, if you like the person and you want to keep seeing them, start out the sandwich, like your bread layer is like, I really like where this is going and I want to keep seeing you. Then the hard stuff is in the center, which is like, but I want to take things a little slower and I hope that's okay. and I want to take things slower. Maybe you don't have a reason. You don't owe them a reason, but because I just got out of a relationship, I want to take things slower because I'm not the kind of person that moves super fast. I want to take things slower because I'm really enjoying this moment of getting to know you, and I want to keep getting to know you before we put a label on it. And then you end it with, I really hope that we can meet on the same page because this has been so fun and I can't wait to keep seeing you. Just reiterating, like, I'm not ready, but I want to keep seeing you. If you don't want to keep seeing with them, completely different story. But I think it's sort of just about being gentle. And the psychologist was talking about, I think they were a psychologist, I think they were a doctor. They were talking about how that just allows somebody's like, imagine if someone said to you, like, imagine you asked someone to date you and they were like, I'm not ready, sorry. You would be like, oh my God, is that an excuse? How do they feel about me? But if someone said, I'm loving getting to know you, it's been so much fun, I can't wait to keep doing so, I'm not ready for a label, but I would love to keep seeing where this is going and keep getting to know you, and we can talk about it a little bit more into the future. You would be like, awesome. Like, no problem. I guess we're not on the exact same page, but like, I'm coming back down to your page. I think it's just about like, if you do want to keep seeing this person and they aren't giving love bomby vibes, which if they're trying to make it official, I feel like they're not, just taking one step back and like delivering that in a gentle way.
Yeah, and I think that is such a great way to do it because it's not saying, no, I don't want to. It's not saying,
Yeah,
like, whoa, buddy, like, slow down there, like, pump the brakes. It's saying, like, this is how I feel. This is where I'm at, but I am excited and I do want to keep going. Like, is that okay? And, it's like the hard conversations are the ones that feel the scariest, are the ones that, you kind of want to
mhm,
avoid, but they're the most important ones to have.
yes,
And the earlier you can practice having that type of exchange with somebody, the better your communication skills are going to be and the more strong of a foundation you can build together.
100%. I agree with you. Like, laying the foundation of a house and it's concrete and strong, then you're going to build a beautiful house. But laying the foundation of a house that's like a piece of plywood and it's not strong, like the house is going to crumble.
Yeah.
Well, no one can see
That
that.
that Maren Morris song, like the house don't fall
Oh,
when
yeah,
the
when the
bones are.
bones are good. Yes,
It's
yes.
it's one of those songs that I feel like people don't listen to the lyrics of, and
No,
then when you do, you're like, "Holy shit!" It's literally about like a strong foundation of a relationship.
yes. Have you seen the girl that like yells Taylor Swift? She's like gorgeous with red hair on TikTok and she yells
Yeah,
Taylor
yeah,
Swift.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna do that for the bones are good, the rest don't matter on TikTok. I'm be like, when the bones are good, the rest
The
don't
rest don't
matter.
matter. The paint can peel,
It's
the glass can
true.
shatter. It's like there can be problems, but if you build a strong foundation, like that goes for anything, any friendship, any, business relationship, any partnership, any roommate-ship, like whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's like you have to start early communication from the beginning. And like I was talking to a friend of mine who recently like lost her job and she wants to start freelancing and she asked me for advice since I did that for a while. And I was like, honestly, like the most important thing for me, and I learned this the hard way, was like setting boundaries from the start and communicating what those boundaries are,
Yes.
because that's how you set the pace. That's your foundation for how this partnership is going to go. And if you don't do that, it can absolutely blow up in your face.
It's like true of everything. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like the way that we work relationships out is the way we can work friendships out and sometimes even like career things. Like I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. My last question for you, and this is my favorite question to ask, is what is the best piece of dating advice you've ever received?
Okay, so my favorite piece of advice I've ever received, which I apply to dating, is be still and wait. And it was told to me by a witch, actually, like
Oh my
not to go
God.
back
Okay.
to shit, but she was reading my tarot and she was like, "You are happening to life at such an aggressive level, and that's great, but like, what about life happening to you?" And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was forcing myself in all these situations. I was running a marathon trying to find a partner. Like, what if I just enjoyed myself and like stayed in my lane and got my shit done? Like, how would it look for life to happen to me and like for me to be gentle with myself? And she said, be still and wait. And when I started to be still and not like be bouncing off the walls, looking for answers to questions that I didn't even fully form yet, I was at this strangest level of peace. And that's when everything, like, when I was still and I waited, and this was when I was in grad school, that's when everything started happening with my career and my writing and just my friends and like my boyfriend. It really makes me emotional to even think about getting that advice inside of like this witch's apartment in Little Italy above the Little Cupcake Bake
Oh
Shop.
my God.
She really did transform my life completely. And be still and wait. I think it's really special. It doesn't even have to pertain to dating, and it's why I like it. But I think it can. Like, you don't need to be like, going on 10 bajillion dates. Like, you're also in the driver's seat. You can just drive, and maybe you're going to pull over eventually and somebody's going to want to get into your passenger side, and that's going to be awesome. I think that's the best advice. I want to hear yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, I love that so much. And there are a lot of times where guests will say things that like we've heard before. I've never heard that. And so thank you for sharing that. I think that is like so wonderful and so real.
Thank you.
Mine is, and it's also something that you can apply to like every aspect of your life. And it's something that, my mom probably told me every single year when I was a kid, a gajillion times a year. I didn't start applying it to my life until the end of high school. And it's, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the first time I ever, the first time I ever like actually listened was when I was touring colleges. I was at Syracuse University on their like accepted students day. And I was only going to go to Syracuse if I got into their communication school. And I had gotten rejected from their communication school, but you can apply to 3 schools within. So I got my second choice, which was their photography program in their art school. And I was like, well, this is stupid. I don't want to be here. Why are we even visiting this school? Like, I don't want to go unless I'm in Newhouse. And my mom's like, well, why don't we go over to admissions and you ask them to reconsider you, say you belong there. And I'm like, that's that shit crazy. They're going to look at me like I have 10 heads, like, and laugh. And she's like, well, Anna, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I'm like, okay, fine. So like I went and I was like, I really want to reapply. Like, I think I belong here and I'd like to like prove that to you. I can send additional materials, whatever it is. They let me reapply. And a few weeks later, I got an acceptance letter. And and that changed the trajectory of my life,
Life. Yeah. I love that too, because I always say this, like, we freak out, like, does this person like me? Oftentimes I feel like it's in very heterosexual settings. Like, does the guy like me? Does he like me? Like, he knows the answers to the questions that are keeping you awake all night. Fucking ask. And guess what? Let's say, worst case scenario, he's like, I see you as a friend, or like, I'm enjoying having sex with you, but I don't want anything more. Wonderful. He just freed you.
You were going to find that out eventually.
You're going to find out eventually. Find out now. Stop wasting your own time. And I cannot stress that enough. Like, what you just said, it hits so hard, because when I realized that, I think I was a senior in college, and I was like, oh, I can just ask if he likes me, because he knows. He knows how he feels about me.
And guess what? Asking the question is not going to change the answer.
Doesn't change the answer. It's the same way as like, I'm getting so heated now, but like, oh my God, can I text him? If you texted someone, hey, how was your week going? And that changed their mind about you. They
like,
need to go to therapy and touch grass.
Fucking bye.
You do not deserve, like, literally, they don't need, that's fucking weird. Like, imagine if you liked someone and they texted you. You would be thrilled to hear from them. Imagine if you didn't like someone and they texted you. You would be like, oh, I'm just going to let them know I'm not interested, like, whatever. But you would never change your mind based on the nature of them messaging you. So, like, I think that's just, like, it's such key advice. And I love that you said that, because it is so true.
It literally applies to every single life situation. And I'm so grateful that my mom taught me that, and that, one day I decided to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Eli, thank you so much for being here. This has absolutely flown by. I want to obviously shout out all the amazing things you're doing. Miss Congeniality, you have your book coming out. Where can people find everything, know everything, play it all?
Okay, so firstly, my podcast, Miss Congeniality, I do booking. Usually, like, my assistant helps me with that. So I'm going to have her reach out to you so you can come on, and then we can maybe meet in person. We can go to the studio, which I think is so fun, and I would love to have you as a guest. And then my book's coming out next year, so stay tuned. But if you follow me at Eli.Rallo on Instagram or The Jar on TikTok, you'll know everything about the pre-order and everything else. But stay tuned for our episode on my podcast, because I'm so excited now that I know you to, like, keep working together.
I'm so excited too. And we absolutely have to meet up. I feel like there's so much that we just like.
No, we
would literally sit there talking for 48 hours straight. Like,
I think that we would literally be like, it would be cosmically gorgeous. Like, I think we would be.
I can't wait. Amazing. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, go check out Miss Congeniality. Follow Eli. I'll put the links in the show notes. And if you have not yet given a 5-star rating and review, please do that. And then head over to Miss Congeniality, listen, give a 5-star rating and review there, and share this on your story, send it to the group chat, send it to a friend who would love to listen, and love you guys. I will talk to you next time.